Alright, so this is gonna be the final deck list. I think I'm gonna keep this pretty short if I can and not talk as fast as I did in the other one. It just happens. But yeah, this is volume 6 of the mutant, I guess the mutant journey, if I'm gonna call it that. It sounds kind of corny. Yeah, so I haven't played this deck in a couple of days, mainly being because I was waiting for Pot of Disparity. I think this deck just kind of, all it really does is lack consistency. And Pot of Disparity, I feel like it just gives the deck exactly what it needs. And yeah, so I'll just get right into this deck. So I'm running 6 of the Searchers, 3 ST, Spell and Traps, and 3 M's, Monsters. Probably the most vital cards of the deck. Are they the best? I highly doubt it. I think it's Beast and Arsenal that, or just Beast that takes that cake, or maybe Eater of Millions, but most vital cards, you want to see them as much as possible. And the thing about it is, even though you have 10 ways of seeing these cards, you hardly ever feel like you see them enough. The 10 ways being the 6 monsters themselves, and then emergency teleport, and the 3 expansions. But yeah, you want to see them more. You just want to get more out of them. A cool thing I've realized, which I think is probably obvious to anyone who's played this deck at this point, is that you can summon M, search ST, ST, search expansion, expansion, search M, and keep that loop going. That loop both generates you a monster and a trap that you can use for Arsenal and Beast, so it's just an advantage loop that you can keep going. Yeah, so yeah, I'm running 2 Beast. It's probably the best card. This is your turn 1 card. It's hard to get over. Not being able to be targeted by monster effects is relevant. If it was monster effects and traps, obviously that'd be better because of impermanence, but it doesn't, so let's not even talk about that. But yeah, negate spells too. So like, you gotta kind of think about the design. Like, this card is basically untargeted by monster effects, and it negates spells. It just screams go first. Like, if you go first and you set that and you summon this and you put a bunch of spells and traps or a bunch of trap cards, or you have the backup to ensure that this can be super effective, you can get a lot out of it. A cool thing about Beast is it can banish itself and get its effect, which is super, which, you know, I feel like half the time that's what I'm doing, just banishing Beast. And if I do have a Cry set up, I'll go into my Cry play as well. But yeah, I'm running 1 Arsenal. Honestly, I'm running a bunch of traps, and it's a 3k beater, so I feel like that's just enough right there. 3k beater, and it's summonable by traps. It can be targeted by traps, but that, honestly, to me, that's hardly came up. Maybe it will come up, and that will become more relevant next format. They're going to release a bunch of targeting traps that aren't infinite impermanence, because infinite impermanence essentially does nothing to it. I'm still swinging for 3k. But yeah, we gotta see. But honestly, I feel like it's a good enough card to run, especially in this build where I'm running so many traps. I'm running 1 Cyberstein. This is just a sack card. This is if I draw it in my opening hand, I'm gonna try sacking with it. And I feel like a deck that's just slow, that can not brick, but can feel kind of inconsistent. If I don't have an ST or an M or a way to get that in my hand, maybe I just have an expansion set and that's it. I summon Cyberstein. I pay 5k. Maybe I'm trying to get an Exterior out if I feel like you have a trap spell heavy deck. Maybe I'm getting Dragoon of Red Eyes just for the floodgate kind of feeling of it. Maybe I'm getting Ultimates just to get a mutant name on the field. You know, it totally depends. And then when I'm done with the Cyberstein, I'm turning into an Al Mirage, and I'm not even dealing with that potential blowback of taking an attack over how much Cyberstein attack is. 700. You know, they're trying to game me off of that. I'm running 3-dimensional shifter or dimension shifter. It's just a game button. I like cards that just say game, and that's what it does. It's great going first or going second. You just discard it. You just discard it and whatever. If they get affected by it, cool. And if they don't, you're still gonna discard it. Like, why would you even give them the chance to put something in the grave? Yeah. I'm running 3 Eater of Millions. Eater of Millions is really good because you don't want to burn your normal summons too much. Like, you want to save them for your ST and your M, and Eater of Millions puts a lot of pressure on your opponent while not taking up your normal summon. Like, Eater of Millions is a solemn warning, solemn judgment type of card. Like, that's a card that eats whatever type of interruption. Obviously, in permanence, they can wait until the they can wait for impermanence until you're actually battling. So you kind of want to be smart about it. Don't attack into Eater Millions if their monster's attack is enough to take you out if Eater Millions becomes 0. Like, don't do it. I was running Forbidden Lance, but honestly it's too situational, and you start feeling how situational and bricky it is when you use it. And like, Chalice is obviously better, but then that doesn't help Eater Millions at all. So yeah, and the great thing about Eater of Millions is it works under Dark Ruler No More. So you can Dark Ruler No More your opponent and totally still just banish your monsters, which it makes them want to do even more with against Eater of Millions because of that. Because if they can't even negate the possible effect happening as well through the monsters on the field, then now they have to burn the Imperm. They have to burn something. And Eater of Millions has it plays well with the ST and M, because you know, like, sometimes, okay, they'll negate your M or ST, so you're just gonna get a direct attack with Eater of Millions and do some type of get that effect off. So you know, they both kind of burn hand traps and interruptions for each other. I'm running one Gizmek. I was running one more before, but I think it's great at 1. Yeah, it's a card you can summon on your opponent's turn. You can summon on your turn. Same thing with the Eater Millions. It's just a free summon, and you want some free summons for a deck that's kind of like this slow. It gives your deck momentum, and it can pop cards if you use it effectively. So, and it's recurring. Like, even though you got to banish 8 off the top, it doesn't really feel like much, especially like, you know, once you've kind of gone through your deck and kind of gotten what you need to get out of it. I would consider running more cards in the deck just to make sure that blowback isn't as bad, but like, I still want to see Pot of Disparity just to get a better idea of where I'm supposed to be at with that. I'm running 2 Dark Ruler No More. This deck is great going first, but going second, it just doesn't want to work through so many interruptions, because you're such a normal summon dependent deck that if I can get your monsters, you know, I can negate all your monster effects, and I'm just working with your hand traps and your spell and traps. I summon Eater Millions, see what goes on from there. Maybe I poke, see what's going on from there, seeing if you burn an Imperm. Then after that, I can go into my M and ST. It allows you to have that sequence, which feels so vital for the deck. I'm running one Mystic Mine. If they have a huge field, you need a way to control it. I know Mystic Mine isn't a great card, but this doesn't feel like a general. This deck on paper doesn't feel like it's supposed to be the cleanest deck. I feel like when you're looking at these effects and how it works, it's supposed to be some level of degenerate, some controlling type feeling. So I went all the way degenerate. I just put Mystic Mine in it. And the thing about it is, if they can play past there can be only one, they can play right into Mystic Mine. So you're gonna get it either way. That's how I think about it. Emergency Teleport, if I can play this at 3 or 2, I would. I feel like this deck kind of depends on how many of these appear, because or how many of these we get, because you want to see these monsters as much as possible. The only way to really put 2 of them on the board is through the field spell, and the field spell is absolutely, I don't know, I'm not gonna call it trash, but it's like good trash, you know, if you know what I mean. It's like it's a decent card, but it's trash, because it's just an extender. It's kind of more of it feels like a continuous spell that they decided to call a field spell, which concerns me, because like, if you know, you would almost hope that they'd make another field spell that does something much better, or at least give them a continuous spell that does something better. I feel like they need a continuous spell by nature, considering that how this deck works is like, you know, they're banishing cards. So I feel like a continuous spell's in the works. Maybe if it has some type of recursion effect, that'd be great. Getting back a monster to your hand from the banish zone, which would be fantastic. I'm running one Dimensional Fissure. It's just a win button. You play it, you win. I'm running one Microcosmos, exact same thing. I like Microcosmos a little more. It banishes everything, but what I really like about it is you can make your opponent play into it. You can make them feel like, okay, I'm walking, I can get stuff into the graveyard. This is cool, this is cool. Then right when they're really gonna commit to something crazy, you Macrocosmos it, and you just get them nervous, you know? 3 Imperms, it's a trap card. It helps me going turn 2, and you can banish to summon Arsenal. And you know, the thing is, like, you just want to run as strong cards as you possibly can with this deck, because you can banish them with the Beast and Arsenal. Like, it would make no sense not to run every broken card you possibly could. Why not run Imperial Order in this deck as well? I'm not running it, but I'm telling myself I probably should, so maybe I will run it. Maybe next time you see it, I will have this in my deck. You never know. Okay, so I'm running one mutant cry. It's funny, when I started playing this deck, I'm like, okay, let's summon a bunch of fusion cards. And then as you play the deck more, you're like, well, I can just sit on beast with there can be only one, and you're just as good. And that's what you end up doing. You end up sitting on beast with there can be only one. Your opponent's doing stuff and you're stopping it, you're negating a card. Sometimes you're banishing your own cards. Sometimes you're protecting beast with your expansions, and you're doing all of that. And when they kill beast, you get your expansion back, your cry back, and you just be like, okay, now I'm gonna do it all again. I'm running 3 crackdowns. It makes perfect sense to me. It gets you both a monster and it gets you a trap card, so why not run 3 of them? I feel like anything that kind of generates you a monster and a trap makes sense, considering I'm running Arsenal and Beast. Yeah. I'm running 3 expansion, kind of the same idea. It doesn't let you play on your opponent's turn unless you run GB88, but that is good trash as well. We call that good trash here. And we're not running GB88, and yeah, so we have the M to ST to expansion loop we talked about already. It protects your beast, it protects your arsenal, which does come up from time to time when you put up a deadly field and they're like, oh no, I'm just gonna, you negated my my called by the grave, I'm going to dark hole your field. And you're just like, okay, banish expansion, and they look at you like, oh, it does that as well, and you're like, yeah, it actually does that as well. I'm running 2 of the Azarins, the negating continuous trap. I feel like it works better in theory than it does on paper, but I'm not giving up on this card. It just makes sense. Like, I want this deck to be so deadly going first. Like, when you're going first, if I basically want to be like, if I draw an M or an ST, or mainly if I draw an M, I want to be like, okay, you're going to deal with this beast, and you're going to deal with a bunch of these traps, and see what's going to happen. I probably need something to protect my traps, like something that protects me past Heavy Storm, but that usually what beast does. I won't even lie, the only thing that really makes me flinch is like, I'm really just trying to make sure you don't blow up my traps before I can do anything about it. And yeah, I'm running 3 there can be only ones. Why? Because it's Saki, and like, once again, I believe in the sack. I completely believe you're supposed to sack your opponent when you can. I know that's where Yu-Gi-Oh's at right now. It sucks, but yeah, it's a win now button, and it's just like one of those things where it's like, this deck is basically spell negation and win now buttons, and I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. And I finish off with 2 dogmatic punishments. Yeah, this is a way to get ahead of your opponent. Like, you're destroying things to get ahead of your opponent. You hardly special summon from your extra deck. Like, even if you have this in Cyberstein, you feel like it's a better play to be popping with it than going to Cyberstein, you can just ditch Cyberstein with Beast, Arsenal, or MRST. Like, you always have a way to use the cards in your deck, which makes it so great. I'm even considering running a Necroface. I was running Necroface from before, but I'm like, okay, that gives me the ultimate level of what's the word? Recursion if I'm running Necroface, so I can just really do it all again. Once again, I'm just waiting to see Pot of Disparity. That's going to change how a lot of this deck looks, because then I can be like, you know, it's weird to say, but Pot of Disparity is kind of like a searcher in a sense. And it's like, if I run Pot of Disparity, maybe I run like a Manju and I run like a Necroface in this deck, because I feel like I can legitimately search these cards almost. It's like, think about Pot of Disparity, banish 6, search Maju essentially, summon it, somehow attack for game, or Pot of Disparity, banish a bunch of cards, summon, and I don't know, summon a bunch of cards too, Necroface for big damage while basically resetting your whole deck all over again, so you can do it all over again. It almost makes this deck a perfect loop, which I think is cool. The extra deck is not important, I guess, because really it's just fodder for banishing for cards, but if I'm going to go over any cards, I'm running Exterio and Dragoon, because I think those are the best Cyberstein targets unless you're just going for pure damage. But even then, Dragoon gets super big, and Exterio can just lock down decks. Like, if you know it's a spell or trap deck, okay, Exterio, deal with it. What are you going to do, Sky Strikers? I'm running 1 Ultimus because this card sucks. I don't care. I'm running Nova. I'm running Nova and Macabre just in case I'm facing Dogmaticas and I want to stunt on them. I'm running Entis for the same reason. Plus, I am running Punishment, so if a case I want to do that as well. Cyberstar can also summon out Macabre as well, which I actually prefer summoning over Ultimates unless I'm trying to get a big attack over it. I'm running 2 Synthesis because it's actually a good card. And then I'm running some rank 8s because Gizmex are rank 8 and the big monsters are rank 8s, and I'm running some simple links. I'd only say that Almirage is important because Cyber's starting to protect his ass, and Almirage helps you protect your ST and Ms as well, just in case, you know, they negate your M or ST. Then you're like, okay, I need to go to Almirage and protect me somehow or some way, you know what I'm saying? And that is the deck profile. I hope you learned something. I'm only hoping to improve from here, so maybe I can just, you know, talk a little better and like explain it even better. And yeah, so stay tuned for the Galaxy Eyes Photon for the testing for that. I'm really interested in what can happen with that deck, and I have a Herald deck that I'm brewing. I got a lot of cool decks that be kind of interesting to see some of these builds. So yeah, stay tuned.